Liverpool's defence of the Premier League title gets underway on Friday at home to Bournemouth. But if they do want to go back-to-back and win a second Premier League title in a row, and maybe even go further in the Champions League and bring home number 7, here are the two key problems I think Liverpool must fix if they want to get anywhere near the success they need this season. Before we get into this, if you're new here and you're not already, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell. Check me Twitter and all that. Same thing as the YouTube. Links will be in the description if I remember to. Let's get straight into this. What you can see on the screen is the lineup from last season. The lineup that went and won the Premier League title last season. And our lineup this season is very different. But I'm starting with what we had last season, because last season these problems weren't as prevalent. So, what Liverpool done last season was everything flowed through Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah put together one of the best individual seasons in Premier League history last season, and everything flowed through him. The team was designed to give him the ball and run around him. Liverpool's philosophy last season was give Mohamed Salah the ball and he'll make the correct decision. And we were very right-hand side dominant, so you would oftentimes see Liverpool structured like this when they were in the final, not in the final third, but progressing into the final third, should we say. Diaz would be probably slightly more central, like that. But it would be like this. It would basically be, let's pass the ball around, open up some gaps. Either Van Dijk plays the long ball, Alexander-Arnold plays the ball down the line, Gravenberch feeds it through, Szoboszlai picks up the ball in this pocket, drives forward, lays it off. When Mohamed Salah would get the ball in this position, what you would end up seeing at this point is run either side. Diaz would either make a run into this gap or a run to the penalty spot. McAllister would make this run here. Gakpo would make this run to get to the back post. And it basically meant Mohamed Salah became everything. He was the hub of everything. He would either play the pass to Szoboszlai and make the run inside for the 1-2. He'd lay it back for Alexander-Arnold, or more often than not, he'd play it outside for Alexander-Arnold to whip in across. He'd sometimes feed it into Gravenberch, but more often than not, what we'd see is Mohamed Salah pick up the ball here and go, here's a cross for McAllister, or here's a cross, a long arching one for Gakpo. And if that didn't happen, Salah would simply bring the ball inside to about here. Probably be a little bit more towards the box, to about here. And you'd either see near post or far post. Everything went through Mohamed Salah last season. But that was because of the personnel that was available. So if we look at the personnel that was available for Liverpool last season, Dominic Szoboszlai is not your creative 10. Luis Diaz was not a number 9 in that sense. The fullbacks that we had in Robertson and Alexander-Arnold were not, even though they could bomb on down the line, they weren't what they were back in 2018, 2019. They were a little bit more reserved in nature. Those players and their shortcomings and their strengths forced Liverpool into becoming a bit of a one-man show, and it worked. Mohamed Salah smashed it. Liverpool went on to win the Premier League. But if we compare that lineup to this season's lineup, if it wants to load for me, thank you. What you see here is Szoboszlai is out for Florian Wirtz. Diaz is out for Hugo Ekitike. Alexander-Arnold is out for Frimpong. Milos Kerkez is in for Andy Robertson. Now, this is where we have to look at profile of player. Frimpong is not in the same ilk as Alexander-Arnold. So if Liverpool are doing the same thing, getting into the same positions as last season, you know, they're up the pitch, they're trying to pin teams back in. Frimpong is not going to sit there. He's not. Frimpong is a wing back, so Frimpong is going to be trying to get either very wide and pushing Salah inside, which isn't ideal for a number of reasons. Or he's going to be sitting inside and giving Salah the space out wide. So straight away we notice a big gap here. A big gap here that wasn't there last season because of how Trent Alexander-Arnold plays or played that position. So what will end up happening is Gravenberch, who last season would operate in this area, is probably going to have to drop in and form a back three. Or Milos Kerkez is limited in his role. He forms the back three, and Gravenberch ends up sitting very wide and very deep here, which, when you consider what Ryan Gravenberch's strengths are, probably isn't the place where you want to be putting him. So I think it's more likely than not that Liverpool would end up pushing Gravenberch into the back line, which then leaves this. McAllister has an awful lot of ground to cover. So then you're looking at it going, well, maybe it'll be a case of, McAllister drifts into the centre. But what happened last year was when a midfielder was away, because this is the second part that I got into about the defensive structure, when a midfielder pulled out of the pivot, what you had in Szoboszlai was someone with an immense engine to get back. You don't want Florian Wirtz doing all this tracking back. So Liverpool are leaving themselves very empty here with the profile of play that they've got as it stands. Because Hugo Ekitike can drop in there, but he wants to operate out there. Florian Wirtz can drop in there, but he wants to operate out there. So Liverpool have all this space which no one's really occupying, except maybe McAllister drifts in. But against Crystal Palace, when this was Szoboszlai and this was Curtis Jones, and Curtis Jones was forming the back line like so, Szoboszlai wasn't operating in that space. So Liverpool were effectively vacating all this space and were very left side dominant. And this meant that the player who was so vitally important last season, Mohamed Salah, becomes very isolated very quickly, and you can't get the ball to him. Because if you go back and look at what it was earlier, you had Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Alexander-Arnold all within such close vicinity to him, and all of them focusing on getting the ball to him. Whereas here, because all the players are this side of the pitch, the only way this ball now gets to Mohamed Salah is if Virgil van Dijk picks it up. Virgil van Dijk picks it up and goes like that. Or Gravenberch picks it up, turns a man, drives a little bit and lays it off. And hopefully in that time doesn't lose the ball and get caught in transition. Isolate Mohamed Salah is the most confusing bit to me. Because we become very left side dominant, and because our midfield outside of Dominic Szoboszlai isn't necessarily filled with these players that can play these raking passes, Salah's not going to get the ball much. So this is why I think that one of Hugo Ekitike, or if he does sign Alexander Isak, who naturally like to drift to the left, or it might even be a case of Florian Wirtz, are going to have to vacate the area they typically like to play in order to help link up here. Football's about triangles. You need to form your triangles. You can, in theory, form one here between Ekitike, Frimpong and Salah, where he connects up there. It's not the best scenario, but it can work. And then you get your triangle out there, and you give Gravenberch an element of freedom, like he had at points last season, to drive into midfield when the time is right and when the opposition, aren't as strong in comparison. But against Crystal Palace, because there was no Gravenberch, because there was no Szoboszlai, or no McAllister, should I say, from the start, it led to these problems where Mohamed Salah is left way too isolated at times. Way too isolated at times. And this tactics board can only show you so much. So I've got a couple of examples here to show you just where it went wrong, and unfortunately, despite the acrimonious circumstances in which he left, if you know, you know, Liverpool are really missing what Trent Alexander-Arnold brought to this team in terms of giving Mohamed Salah the ball. So here I've pulled stuff from 2 games, both Man City games, I think. Yeah, it'll be both Man City home and away. These are just the 2 games that I have saved fully on this on my computer at the minute. And I want you to look at what Trent Alexander-Arnold offers you here. So this is the goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold was able to play a 60-yard pass straight from the centre of the pitch all the way into this pocket here. It took out, if we count them up here, it took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defenders. It took out 7 defenders because Trent Alexander-Arnold had that ability with his passing range to get the ball to Mohamed Salah quickly, directly, in space, which is something that Jeremy Frimpong cannot do. Frimpong is a completely different type of right back to that. So, with the loss of Trent Alexander-Arnold, these opportunities that were created last year, because he could just pick up the ball and if he had half a yard of space, smack it 40 yards up the pitch into the area behind the defence where Mohamed Salah's run onto it. Because that opportunity's gone, that's an element of the game that has been lost for Liverpool. And you'd be surprised how often this pass was used. Again, if we move on to the next one. Alexander-Arnold, in such a deep position at right back. Not only, I can touch on this now because it's the other topic. Not only is him sitting here better for defensive structure, but again, this is someone who, from the edge of our penalty area, goes all the way up there, plays it all the way over the top of the entire Manchester City team, and gets Mohamed Salah the ball in a dangerous position. We have lost that now. That pass, that option, that opportunity, that weapon in the Arsenal's gone. And Frimpong doesn't give you that. What Frimpong does is Frimpong wants to be running off here when Salah's got the ball, but Liverpool are losing all the ways they were giving Mohamed Salah the ball. This is the biggest loss. Trent Alexander-Arnold being gone is the biggest loss, but Dominic Szoboszlai no longer playing in the 10 and drifting out to the right like he used to do is a loss for getting Mohamed Salah the ball. Ryan Gravenberch potentially being forced to drop into the back 3 in order to keep defensive solidity in possession. That's the way Liverpool are losing getting the ball to Mohamed Salah. As it stands, the only way Liverpool can consistently get the ball to Mohamed Salah is that man there, Virgil van Dijk. Our left centre-back is the only way we can consistently get the ball to our most dangerous player. That's not good enough. It's not. We are too left-side dominant in this current iteration. It was a little bit of a problem in pre-season. It was a major problem against Crystal Palace. You have to keep giving the ball to Mohamed Salah. He is the best player on the planet, and we have lost all our weapons that were getting him the ball consistently. Again here, this is us doing it from a slightly higher position. Alexander-Arnold pushing right up. But look at how many people are within such close vicinity to Mohamed Salah here. So if the ball is won back, he's got option 1, 2, 3 and 4 to pick out. And even if it's won back quickly enough, option 5 to pick out. There are 5 options there to pick out, which just weren't there against Crystal Palace because we are too left side dominant. That being gone is a real problem. City away, we played it completely differently, but again, the second goal of the game comes from something that is the same thing. Alexander-Arnold and his passing range was completely able to bypass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Man City defenders in one go. Completely just one ball over the top. Got Mohamed Salah in behind, on the ball, and we all know what happens next. He lays it into Szoboszlai, and Dominic Szoboszlai puts it in the back of the net. Losing that Alexander-Arnold weapon of his pass that used to get the ball to Mohamed Salah consistently in dangerous areas, in one-on-one areas, in behind opposition defences. It's hurt Liverpool more than you can imagine in the immediate term. And I trust Arne Slot will figure out a way to fix this. But in the immediate short term, Liverpool have a real problem getting their best player the football. Because all the weapons that were used for that last year, all of them bar Virgil van Dijk are no longer going to be utilised, in my opinion, in the same way. You know, some players have left, some players have been forced into different roles, some players are potentially being dropped to the bench for different types of 10s. Again, this is in the second half. Alexander-Arnold, you would never catch Jeremy Frimpong in this position because it's not the type of footballer he is, and this is not me bashing Jeremy Frimpong. But what Jeremy Frimpong gives you is something that you want once Mohamed Salah's got the ball, but he's not giving Mohamed Salah the ball. This is the problem. We are set up really well for once Mohamed Salah's got the ball. We have plenty of smart footballers who are going to make the right movements when Mohamed Salah's got the ball, but we are not getting him the ball consistently enough, and Crystal Palace was a prime example of that. But again, Alexander-Arnold here, quality pass, in behind Gvardiol, gets Mohamed Salah the ball, and then look, you've got runner 1, runner 2, runner 3. Alexander-Arnold's there if he wants to pass it back. The runners were there once he had the ball. I feel like a broken record at this point. Liverpool have stopped giving the ball to Mohamed Salah, and I don't know why. And this, it's, you know, again, this is what I'm talking about with the right-hand side dynamics. Look at how close Dominic Szoboszlai is here. Salah has an option to play off of. Diaz is within a relatively close distance as well. Again, Salah, but the ball turned over. You got 1, you got 2, you got 3 in such close vicinity. We don't have that now. And again, this is the only weapon we've got left. Virgil van Dijk picking up the ball at centre-back and playing a long ball in over the top to Mohamed Salah. Where this is where it does work. Jeremy Frimpong here is very good at that run, or very good at that run. But the fact that that is our only weapon left is a real problem because it's predictable. And Crystal Palace dealt with it wonderfully against us on Sunday in the Community Shield, because Mark Gahey would mark Salah. Mark Gahey would mark Salah. Now, I want you to look back at these ones where I'm talking about the right-hand side dynamic and how close everything is. Now, the fullback's getting involved and the DM's occasionally getting involved, and there's the fluidity and there's the movement, and it's all well and good. We're doing the exact same thing on the left-hand side. I've got me left back here, me left winger, me 10, me striker, and me DM, all left side. Mohamed Salah at this point, what's he supposed to do with that? That's not where his strength was last season. Because Ekitike wants to drift to the left, because Vert wants to drift to the left, because Gakpo wants to operate out on the left, because Kerkez is a good runner out on the left, because Szoboszlai's been playing on the left at DM, Liverpool have become too left side dominant, and it has come at the cost of Mohamed Salah. Once again, the DM, the left winger, the 10, even the striker. I know in this case, he's not necessarily there yet. But what you'd often see with Ekitike is he'd make that run there. And if I'm just going to, for argument's sake, we'll mark that as where Ekitike would be. Look at how isolated Mohamed Salah would be. There is nothing there. There's no link piece there. Salah's closest option is his right back, who is on the opposite side of the pitch to where the ball is. And the only player in this area that can get that ball over the top to him is Dominic Szoboszlai, who can play that ball there. But he needs time and he needs it on his right foot to do that. He can't do that in this situation. This, though, was the one time one of the only times we attacked down the right. And it started from deep. Because it wasn't a settled possession. Because our players weren't settled in trying to drift over to the left. It was a bit of an instinctual counter-attack. Frimpong plays it up. And we're centrally set up, which means that we can play the ball out to the right because the link is there. Ekitike, brilliant layoff. Wirtz plays the ball, and Mohamed Salah in this situation makes the correct decision and plays the pass you'd want him to play right there for Cody Gakpo, who just was slightly too late on getting onto it and didn't get a great enough connection. But this whole thing that I've seen, that Salah's washed, Salah's finished, Salah can't do it. The one time we put Mohamed Salah into a similar situation that he was in last year, I saw the exact same things I was seeing last year. The quick counter-attacks, the quality pass, the correct decision-making. When you put the runners around him, when you give him the ball, he still does what he does. But against Crystal Palace and at points in pre-season, we have not been doing that. And that's a problem that I think Arne Slot needs to fix. The second problem that Liverpool have that needs to be fixed, if we want to, go on and retain the league title and, compete for the Champions League, is our defensive structure. Arne Slot's philosophy is really good. You don't win Premier League if your philosophy's bad. But the one thing that is getting exploited in his philosophy, and it was getting exploited at the back end of last season and against Crystal Palace, even in pre-season, it's why we've struggled to keep clean sheets recently. Arne Slot, when Liverpool are defending, especially when we're defending counter-attacks and transitions, wants a numerical advantage against the opponent's attack. So if the opposition has a 4-man attack, he wants 5. If they've got a 3-man attack, he wants 4. But more often than not, because of how the fullbacks are playing now, in Kerkez and Frimpong, it means one of the midfielders has to tuck in. And, against Crystal Palace, where they play front 3, it meant that one of the fullbacks was often having to stay back as well. The reason this is a problem is that there are moments in transition, especially once Liverpool are in possession, dominating the football, and then ceding it quickly, where the gap is too big and Liverpool are too easy to play through. So imagine this is Liverpool. We're building up right now. Gravenberch's in the middle. We're building up. McAllister's got the ball, plays a pass, and such intercepts it. And all of a sudden, I want you to look at this entire part of the pitch. That's the gap between my pivot. That's the gap between my 2 DMs. You'd often have a striker about here, wingers there, and you'd have whoever's won the ball transition and bringing it forwards. So Liverpool are in a 4-on-4 at this point, but with 3 players in the gaps between the holes, in the gaps between the lines. They've got 3 players there. Liverpool are fucked in that situation. Frimpong's got a bust a gut to get back. Kerker's got a bust a gut to get back. Meanwhile, that's opening up the door for the wing-backs to push on or whatever. Liverpool are just, in transition, too easy to get at. And that's fine. That it's not fine. But that's manageable, should I say. Provided that the moment the ball is given away, you're on them. You are pressing like madmen. You are swarming that ball to limit it, to buy the likes of Frimpong time to recover, to buy the likes of a Kerkez time to recover. But against Crystal Palace, the loss of Szoboszlai in the attacking midfield was really felt. It was really felt at points in the press. And too many times Palace were able to play out, once they won the ball, play out under minimal pressure. Play the passes that normally should be quite tough, normally should be done under duress, under minimal pressure. And it led to too many situations where the Liverpool defence was put into situations where Arne Slot doesn't want them to be in, where it's 3-on-3 or 2-on-2. That has to get fixed. Here is Liverpool last season. And the philosophy was still the same last season. You'd see the back line is there. Your pivot... Oh, apologies. Your pivot is there. And in this game, obviously, we played without an out-and-out striker. But just imagine, for argument's sake, that Curtis Jones is slightly higher up, but it's, you know, your striker. But the philosophies are still pretty much the same. Liverpool lost the ball in this area. I think it got past to Alexander-Arnold, who took a heavy touch. I want you to look at how we're set up here. Defender, 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 defender. And even McAllister right here. In fact, Andy Robertson should really be in that area there. But he's just a little bit slow tracking in. But this worked because of how the fullbacks played. Now, obviously, you might sit there and go, well, it's because it's not, you know, given away higher up the pitch. And that could be a decent complaint if the, you know, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold were operating in the same ways that Frimpong and Kerkez do. But they don't. Frimpong and Alexander-Arnold, the fact they operate in such different ways is a key factor that I think has been lost. Again, looking at the back, looking at the back line, all in shape. But you're seeing again, Arne Slot wants the numerical advantage. City have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different attackers there. Liverpool, we're talking about being behind the ball here. You want to be behind the ball. I've just tapped on the screen like you can see that. You want to be behind the ball here. That's really one of the key defensive things. So Manchester City have 5 players in line with or ahead of the football. Liverpool have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the philosophy that Arne Slot wants, where he always wants the numerical advantage in defence, Liverpool were doing that last year to great effect. Again, this is another situation. In and around the penalty area, how many City players are we looking at? We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 City players. For Liverpool, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's always the numerical advantage. The numerical advantage is Arne Slot's key thing when defending. He wants to ensure that Liverpool have a numerical advantage against the opposition attackers. And Liverpool were exceedingly good at it last year. But it's because of the setup of the midfield. For one, you know, Dominic Szoboszlai. Look at in each and every single one of these. There he is. Where is he in this one? There he is. Where is he in this one? There he is. And again, this is one to showcase. Look, this is to showcase the problem with the pivot that I think can occasionally occur. That is a relatively decent distance. I still think it's slightly too far, but it's relatively decent. The problem is, at points, I don't know if I've got it in this one. It might be out of position in this one. It is. This was the pivot at other points. This is too big. This is way too big a space. And I think this was the chance which Marmoush scored and was offside. But this space was too big. And Gravenberch can't cover it all. And it meant that, because McAllister was caught up here, bearing in mind Liverpool's back four was set at that point in time. It was 1, 2, and then you had Canate, Van Dijk, and Robertson there. And Curtis Jones was there. So we've got 6. And now we're looking at Man City. You've also got to play with the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Phil Foden was there. So that's 6. It was a 6-on-6. Liverpool didn't have the numerical advantage. Liverpool could have conceded if not for offside. but it's because by sacrificing the pivot in a press that McAllister done, Liverpool lost that numerical advantage. And whether you like it or not, man-to-man defending, it doesn't work all the time, not especially not against the best teams in the world. But I want to go to the way we played here against Crystal Palace. So against Crystal Palace, you can see the same philosophy. We are looking at Palace 1, 2, 3, 4, and Munoz is right here 5. For Liverpool, 1. Still getting used to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But against Crystal Palace, what was interesting about what we done, and what I hope doesn't continue, is that we gave specific man marking jobs to people. So Milos Kerkez was tasked with marking Ismail Yassar. Curtis Jones was tasked with man marking Eberechi Eze. I didn't like this because what it meant, I don't have the photos or the screen grabs on this. What it meant was we were leaving Cody Gakpo to deal with Munoz. Cody Gakpo's a left winger. He's not a wing back. Munoz was killing him because Gakpo doesn't know where he's supposed to be defensively. I would have much rather had it where, and again, this is probably a personnel thing, I think it would be a little bit different had a McAllister or, a Gravenberch being available from the start. I would have much preferred it to where, see where Milos Kerkez is here? If he was instead out wide, in fact, let me get a different colour. If Milos Kerkez was instead in Gakpo's role, Gakpo was up here, and, he was instead in that position. I think that makes a little bit more sense. If that's McAllister tucks in and becomes your auxiliary centre-back, either side, so you've got your 2 DMs, man marking, the 2 attacking midfielders, you've got your full-backs marking their wing-backs, and that allows you your 2-on-1 with the striker, which is something that I think all football teams aim to have when they're going up against, if you're going up against a striker like Mateta, you really want 2 centre-backs on him. I didn't like this Kerkez thing. I really didn't. I think it confused him. I don't think he was great on the day with that. But it swings in roundabouts. Because whilst I say I wanted the McAllister one, it does occasionally lead to these problems. McAllister's not as quick as Ismail Yassar. So Ismail Yassar done him. But I also think, and I know Mr. Redmond will kill me for this, Endo's got to do better here. Endo's got to take Eze if needs be. But I also think if we look back at the difference between, this clip with City, this clip with City, this clip with City, see how everyone's back? If I look at this one, where's my clearing thing? I think that Wirtz can be doing better. I think that Salah could have done better. And I think that Szoboszlai could have done better. We effectively played in a 6-2-2 defensively against Crystal Palace. When you do that, everyone in that 2-2 needs to pull their weight. Here, Wataru Endo, obviously he's on a man marking job on Eberechi Eze because he's taken the Curtis Jones role. But what it's done, Eze's quicker, Eze's faster, Eze's smarter than Wataru Endo. So one of these midfielders has to get back in and help press. They didn't. The ball got played over the top and it should have been a penalty, all things considered. But again, I want to show you here. This is in the build-up to the Eze, into the Sarr goal. Again, Liverpool's back 6 is like that. Liverpool are playing a back 6. This does come with a problem, though. And this is where I say that I understand Arne Slot's philosophy. I do think it might need to change at points. You cannot always push for this numerical advantage in the ways that you do. Because you start to see the issues with a McAllister and an Endo in this spot, in the same way that you've seen the issues with a Kerkez and a Jones and a whoever in those spots. The ball is up here with Gakpo. McAllister, because he's a midfielder in the setup, the moment that ball is there, he's going, right, I want to get forwards. Gakpo loses the ball. It gets to Adam Wharton. And where's McAllister gone? He's jumped. He's jumped out. because he wants to be in midfield. And again, I think that Florian Wirtz has to be closer to him, has to be pressing him harder, has to maybe just take the foul. Kerkez is in no man's land because McAllister's jumped, because he's now cleared everything so it's not looking like a mess. He can see two guys. He can see Sarr and he can see Munoz. Van Dijk has seen McAllister. I think this is the better case to show with Van Dijk. Van Dijk has seen McAllister and went, right, McAllister's jumped up, I'm stepping up. Frimpong hasn't spoke, which is a big problem though. So no one else follows. And Kerkez is caught between two minds. He doesn't know whether to stick with Sarr or go with Munoz. And he ultimately doesn't either. But this is all because Wirtz, as you can see here, this is the moment the ball's played. He's no closer. Wirtz has to get much closer there. Or Szoboszlai has to get much closer there. The moment Adam Wharton is picking the ball up here, he cannot be given, you know, Wirtz is there, but he's not really there. But just look at the space between Szoboszlai and Wharton. You've got to jump. You've got to jump out and close that down. You simply have to jump out and close that down. Liverpool didn't do that. Liverpool failed to do that against Crystal Palace. The pressing wasn't there. The insistence on the philosophy is getting exploited by teams who are going over the top. And it's getting exploited by teams who can hit you in pace and transition, because it leaves your midfield open at points. And when it doesn't leave your midfield open, it causes confusion amongst the back line. Arne Slot's a very good manager. I'm sure he can figure it out. But these two things that I've noticed in pre-season and in the Community Shield, if Liverpool can't fix them soon, Liverpool won't win the Premier League title. They won't. You can't. You can't win the Premier League title if you're not giving your best player the ball, and you can't win the Premier League title if your defence is so, for lack of a better term, unorganised. You can't. And I want Liverpool to win the Premier League. I want Liverpool to win the Champions League. So I'm hoping that soon I see these problems fixed. And who knows, maybe come Friday when we play Bournemouth, these problems are fixed and this video is already outdated. But I hope that they're fixed sooner rather than later. But people, I'm going to leave it there. This is a long video, but I just felt that I really wanted to talk about these two things I've noticed in the last couple of games, especially when compared to how good we were at them last season, how disappointing we've been at them this season, you know, in pre-season and in the Community Shield. If I appreciate you all for watching. I'm going to try and do this type of content a little bit more often as well. Like I said at the start of the video, if you're new already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any more content. I'm going to love yous, leave yous, ta-ra people, ta-ra, ta-ra, ta-ra.